There are three guys specifically we're going to hear from here in our Q's and K's, and we'll start with Jalen Duncan. Building chemistry with Peter Skronsky, facing Miami's front, one of three guys who are certainly auditioning for some kind of role on this team in 2024. When you're 4-8, that's what you're doing. When you have a chance to be eliminated from postseason play this upcoming weekend, if things fall not in your direction. We'll start with Jalen Duncan yesterday in the locker room.
The mood is just to keep pushing and just get ready for next week. You can't sit and dwell on the past. So, everybody just came working. We're getting prepared for this Monday. So,
you guys go and look at the tape from last week. Kind of what did you see in terms of how you did and what you can improve on?
Me personally, I'm a rookie. A lot of things that I got to continue to work on. Just better hands in the pass pro. Just getting off the ball. Just low pads, being able to move people and being physical with speed and violence.
Some great blocking, though, in the run game. How do you kind of build confidence off of something like that?
As an O-lineman, we love to run the ball. So, when you're out there being able to move people, I guess the confidence builds itself. Being able to see the running back, get a dirty run for like 5-6 yards, that's a lot of excitement. It makes us feel good. So.
How do you feel like the chemistry's building on that left side with you and Pete?
I think it's building pretty good. We'll continue to work. We'll continue to get together and make sure we go over everything. Just throughout the season, just get better. So.
This Miami front, what do you see from them? What are the challenges?
They're big, they're aggressive, they play fast. So the challenge, we just got to go out there and just compete. Just got to play harder than them, be more physical, be more aggressive, and let's go play ball.
What I appreciated about Jalen Duncan specifically is, and this is, me yesterday, last week with the other media, like y'all, the locker room is sparse. Okay, it's there is barely anybody in there, and by the time you get one guy, you go to turn around to go maybe get another guy. There's nobody there, so. It was great to see Duncan when I went over there. He had such a positive attitude, and rightfully so. He's a rookie. He's trying to earn a job, but he has a great attitude. I feel like he is really trying to do everything he can to improve in a really kind of crazy, difficult situation. I'm rooting for this guy. I want him to succeed, but it's hard because week to week, he's going to have mistakes. Like Ramon, you mentioned it. He's a rookie at left tackle. Like there's going to be some bad games.
It is. They're going to attack him every single week they can. Heck, and for year two starters, they do the exact same thing too. By year three, Will brought that up earlier, asking about Money Rice and third rounders. Like how long are you supposed to last? And imagine him being a sixth rounder. Like by year three is where you start to get established and see that talent comes out. But good on him. And one thing that we used to do too when we were losing, we'd also put the rookies in the locker room also.
He's like hidden over there in the locker too, so no one sees him.
They got to be something. We got to be represented. Young fella, go take these interviews, okay? We're there through you. But one thing, and I wrote it down, you asked him about the run game, Kayla.
Yeah.
And he brought up the fact the offensive linemen love that. Run game confidence is what he said. The run game gives you confidence when you're blocking well and seeing a running back get positive yards where you feel, okay, I'm doing my job. Like, that's what the run game does. You can actually dictate more if you're able to move bodies off the line of scrimmage. And his technique's been good. Him and Peter's both. Peter Skronsky, technique has been good. And that's all you're asking from a young fella when it comes down to what the progression is. Yes, would I love him to be Trent Williams? Abso-freaking-lutely. Sign me up for that. I love to see him be that. But here's the thing about Trent. I saw an interview with Trent Williams the other day, and he was speaking about when he saw who was it? He saw a defensive end in a game, and he was just like, "This is my welcome to the NFL moment." He said it was the entire game. DeMarcus Ware said he absolutely worked him, and it was. And what I took from that is, no matter who you are, when you're a young guy. Young offensive lineman in this league, it's one faction of the game that always gets you, and that's pass protecting. That's why when you have moments of bragging on him and Peter Skronsky in the run game, you feel okay with that because the pass protection is growth. It's understanding of angles. It's understanding how people are going to attack me. It sounded like he lit up a little bit when he's speaking about the running game. Now, if you ask him about his pass pro, it's probably going to be a different conversation. I admire that about him by understanding the run game is where I'm going to, win. So I must win there. And the passing game will come from that. The incorporation of him and Peter Skoronski working beside each other is something that's going to be very unique. Now, it's one thing that's true of this. There's at least one of them that will be on that left side going into next year. Knocking on wood, because I hope ain't nothing crazy happening this year. But one of them, and that's Peter. How Jalen Duncan positions himself moving forward, how his level of play and confidence he has with his coaches, and also his ability to get better in the pass pro as a left tackle with a right arm throwing quarterback, meaning the blind side, is something that has to be developed. And there's no better stretch of games than with more divisional teams, with Jacksonville and Houston coming in, and Will Anderson being down there in Houston, just one of those guys, and also what Josh Allen, the rusher, can provide. This is one of the biggest auditions that he's going to have. Now, at minimum, he'll be a rotation guy. The hope is if you can get a starter out of him, because if given the opportunity and the Titans are picking in the top 10, I think for the most part, unless you have Brock Bowers, unless you have, Marvin Harrison Jr., I get it. You're probably going to take a high caliber left tackle.
Sure.
So that's just where I think this group is.
With Jalen Duncan, it seemed to me from listening to Mike Vrabel speak about him earlier this week that the good plays were better, but the bad plays also still might have been worse for him in that second game and in that start against Indianapolis. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment. You need to see that step in improvement. There's no other way to do it, Will, than trial by fire. And that sucks because it's fans depending on you to win games for them. But Vrabel's high on him, and you can tell. Watching his interaction and how he speaks about him. And here's the other thing, too. I think Vrabel's going to be harder on him publicly than probably other players in this situation because there's such a demand for that spot right now.
Well, and it's the first lineman it feels like they've developed in a while, right?
Sure.
I mean, they're trying to develop Aaron Brewer into a legitimate NFL center. I don't think that's been a success.
Yeah.
And they didn't draft him, right? I mean,
No, he was undrafted out of
Undrafted,
Texas State.
yep.
And they've developed Dylan Radins into a guy who can at least be on the field and be something for them, right? But when you're drafted as a second-round pick, just getting on the field doesn't mean that you were developed into that. You need to be, as a second-round pick, on the field within 2 years as a starter. Maybe not as a rookie, but on the offensive line, by year 2, you need to be a starter. And he wasn't. I think with Jalen Duncan, I almost wonder if they're grooming him to be their right tackle next year.
I could see that happen. Again, reps is what matters, right?
Because I don't think they're going to put a 6th-round pick out there as their day one starter at left tackle, regardless of how good he is the rest of the season. I don't see a scenario where that happens. And we mentioned it last week. A lot of the issues he's going to have are not just because he's a 6th-round pick. It's just because he's a rookie tackle. Andrew Thomas is one of the best left tackles in the league right now for the New York Giants. He was wretched as a rookie.
Yes, he was. I have a question for you, too. It's a great discussion, by the way. Are we making that assumption about Jalen Duncan without the inclusion of NPF, too? Or are you planning to move NPF over? Because if that's the case,
a good question.
we got a great problem.
I think NPF is a swing tackle next year.
We got a great problem.
I just don't – he hasn't been consistent enough.
but he hasn't really been here this year.
Well, that's his own fault for the suspension.
Right, but I feel like he's still going to be competing for a starting spot.
Competing, sure, but I mean, he wasn't good enough when he played.
Well, no. I mean, he was barely on the field.
Another player auditioning for a spot next year, I imagine he has a roster spot in the starting lineup, is Traylon Burks, who spoke with reporters yesterday talking about the pressure to stay on the field in his return from injury.
I wouldn't say that I've put pressure on myself just because it's been things that I couldn't prevent happening. But I have been, making sure that I've been on my skill set, on my playbook and everything. So it's my time.
Do you have a level of just general frustration right now? Obviously, last year is what it was, and I know you felt so confident going into the year that the way your first 2 years have played out to this point.
No frustration at all. Like I said, it's just things that happen, that I can't prevent.
Is there anything you do to stop that frustration from creeping in?
Just be me.
How do you feel like your chemistry is building with Will now that you're kind of back out there?
I would say it's been building, really good. Other than me getting hurt and not being out there with him. But I would just say it's still there. You know, he knows what I can do. I know what he'll do, and just be open. You know what he needs.
Oof.
Frustrated.
That's frustrated vocal from him.
Yeah.
You could feel it. You could see it on his face because that's about the only guy that had depth in terms of the media in the locker room. It was like 4 deep.
Yeah.
So to get in your questions, like, yeah, hurry up because you're not going to get it in. But yeah, he seemed frustrated, guys, and rightfully so. He just hasn't been on the field. And Mike Vrabel said he expect him to get obviously more snaps this week, but I don't know. It's a tough thing right now for him to just have not had any consistency to build off of.
Yeah, and that's what, like you heard it, he's short-witted, and I know Traylon's he's very charismatic. He's an open guy. Hearing questions about his career, you could hear the frustration in his voice, and fair or unfair, it's just his pathway right now. It's football injuries, but the same way we look at NPF situation, almost anybody else, you have to stay on the field. You only get better by getting live reps. I don't care how much how good you look in practice. Like, we've seen practice heroes. We also seen dudes in practice be trash. And then they go out and they're gamers, right? That's where he is. It ain't a decision-making time on Traylon. I think we're a little bit far from that. What is this, year 2? Yeah, year two for him. But there is a point in his career where he's got to start making some stretches. He's got to start making some plays, and we've yet to see any of that. He's had 100-yard game, or no? He hasn't had a 100-yard rep yet. He has?
Yeah.
Okay. More.
Yeah.
And it ain't because you replace AJ. More because you're a first-rounder.
Got to be healthy, man.
More because you're a first-rounder.
Yep.
Traylon Burks at Green Bay last year had the 100-yard game in the last road win the Titans had
Then he got
on
knocked
November
out.
17th.
Cannot get over that.
What's the expectation for him the rest of this year?
Stay healthy. Will, honestly, I'm not even trying to be like, stay healthy so that he can build something. And that, because otherwise, if he gets hurt again, you're back to square one. I mean, he won't play the rest of the season. I just hope he can stay healthy and build on reps and games and just have at least maybe 2 big catches or have a red zone touchdown. I don't know. Just basic things to build upon.
Be effective. When the ball comes your way,
right,
be effective. No more slips, no more falls, no more drops. Be effective. If it's 3rd and 6 and you got an 8-yard route, give me that first down.
What was our expectation again for him in the offseason? 900 yards?
Yeah, it was.
He's got to show that he can be a consistent deep threat within this offense. That's my expectation for him. I need a lot more from a first-round pick.
I think we were saying like about 800, 900 between him and
we were.
I think I remember saying 800.
I said 9, I think.
There were discussions where it was between him and DeAndre Hopkins, 2,000 yards.
Yes, it was. And Chig was 700.
Yep.
Let's bring that up.
It was around that point right there. Heck, well, I think you even might have said, well, about 650, 700, somewhere in there. I was over the top, of course, with my assumptions, so more times than not.
Let's go to Roger McCreary for the final Q&K this morning as well. Another guy who is continuing to carve out a role for himself for the Titans secondary and has a difficult job covering Tyreek Hill on Monday.
You know, these guys, they love throwing the ball downfield, so we have to come with a great game plan to stop that from top to down to just pursue to the ball and have vision. That's one of our main goals now. We're going to work on it now and see how it goes. That's all I know for now.
What have you seen improvement-wise from like Tua and just in terms of kind of his accuracy and not having to run as much maybe?
Yeah, I feel like, from this year to last year, he had to protect himself a little bit more. So I feel like he knows where he's throwing the ball exactly. He can out his hand quickly. And I feel like they have a lot of formations and they have a lot of guys who are fast. They can make him get the ball out quickly. So that's one thing I would say he improved on from last year.
They've been so good in the red zone. I think 75% tops in the league. What's worked for them? How do you kind of keep them down in that red zone?
I mean, I feel like that's a team you can't really stop it. You just have to slow them down, like you say. I say they just got a lot of stuff going on. They just have a lot of motions, a lot of guys who move from this way to that way. They all speed, they're all fast, so they just be moving. So really, it's just all about the eyes. It's just knowing the game plan they're going to use in this red zone. We haven't went over it yet, but that'll be one main thing because they is number 1 offense in the red zone, and we know we have to focus on that.
Oof.
So there is Roger McCreary yesterday. I think there is a chance, guys, that Roger McCreary and Amani Hooker are probably the only players starting in this secondary right now who are starting there this time next year.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I would say that.
I can say there's a strong sense that that's going to be the case.
Christian won't be back, I don't think.
Christian
That's
won't be
for sure.
back. I don't expect Sean Murphy Bunting to be back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect Elijah Molden to be a starter
Right.
this time next year. Roger McCreary has a chance to carve out a spot as the nickel corner for years to come. And I think right now in that secondary, he is the only guy I get really excited about. And not really excited even. He's been fine. But he's the most consistent thing the Titans have in that secondary right now. So certainly a guy that I think they rely on Monday and they rely on moving forward as well.